Namaste. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence. Thank you, all of existence. Thank you, YouTube. You see, credit deserves who it is due. If someone or anyone would offer you a spiritual service in the sense that if they would help you connect to spirits, the only reason why you are paying them is because you prefer them to connect to spirits than you doing it directly. So when you put something as your channel, it is only natural to honor your channel that is giving you source directly or that you are using to get source. That is why if you steal someone's idea and you don't credit it or acknowledge it, right? Sorry, not steal. If you use someone's idea and you don't credit it, it is not love. Love is just. Love will not say give and not be given. Sorry, they just brought my light. And I think it can be brighter with the light. 1 minute. So I'm back here. It's my famous boxers. Famous boxers have become famous. It's just a boxers I like. I use this particular stuff to do this stretch. It helps me not have a tight, tense, stiff workout. Imagine working out and you're just like this, you cannot carry your hand up. You have to do like this, carry your hand. So all those, and today is my new foundation. Thank you for joining my life if you do. And if you don't, you get to watch my offline, my, you know, streaming video. I don't make it too long so that your attention isn't, you know, too stretched because I'm more interested in you feeling good watching my video than you not feeling good watching my video. So I try to make it as short as I can because I know how I take probably more than you did to watch some people's 1 hour video. And like I have to pause and the next day probably go to it. So with all that in my consciousness, it doesn't make sense to be someone that sorry to be someone that wouldn't care to understand that some people's interest span like isn't so much. It's not like it's a default or it's a negative thing. The default means that it can increase. It's something that is fixed, right? But some people have grown their attention span more. Some people don't try to grow it. And whether people grow, the people don't want to grow, it's nothing negative. People have different timing of growing. And embracing this truth gives you peace of mind because you're not expecting anything from anyone. You just know that eventually people will grow to understand. And this is actually an expression of love. Love will always be light. Love is the lightest vibrating body. I know people think authenticity is the highest that can ever exist, but love is the lightest vibrating body that you can see in all of existence. There's nothing lighter than love. Because there's nothing lighter than love, it brings us back to the fact that love is just. Love is never unjust. Love will never say some people would be happy and some people won't be happy. And I know that the world right now, to a lot of us, looks challenging to accept this simple truth because of experiences that are lived that cannot be shaken off. But the truth is, love is just. It doesn't change the fact that love will always be just. So if someone is giving you information from source, it is only due to them, right? That they are paid back naturally. It is source that's supposed to pay a person that is directly connected to source. But some people don't want source to pay them. They'd rather price their service. And this is not a negative thing. We can choose for God to reward us or for our efforts to be rewarded by actively by people around us. It is not a negative thing to choose to be paid for your services because you are connecting to source. At the same time, that services is only possible because you are feeling attached to every spiritual work you put in to get to that position to receive from source. This is not a crime because if you feel that way, it is not wrong to feel that way. I'm not invalidating the fact that you want to be paid. It's not a wrong thing. And some people are like, they don't listen to anybody, they don't pay. The fact is that God is not wanting you to pay to exist. That is where I want to start with. I don't know who managed to start selling it that is surplus in, in size. The fact that we are all on earth, that earth itself brings out new land from within itself. That is why the earth crust is not a fixed, it's not a fixed position. Earthquake, lava, all these chemical components keep having inside motion in the ground. And this motion of earth brings out new land, fresh land. That is why it is possible for a place to have a new land that you can discover new mineral resources. Because the land is never the same, just like the sky is never the same. There is nothing fixed. And we have been so infused to lack that we are so scared of earth not being enough to contain all of us. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence. But earth is more than enough to contain all of us. It is self-sufficient. You see, God is not stupid. Like people think God does not care to understand. That is what I mean by God is not stupid. Not caring to understand is stupidity. So when I say God is not stupid, I'm saying God actually cares to understand everything that exists within itself. That is why it used itself to bet all that can exist so that it can experience everything by itself. So there is nothing that you think you are facing that God is not experiencing. And for you to think that God does not witness anything going on is a lie. Because if the hairs on your head can all be named and counted individually, there is no place or space that God does not exist. It is impossible. It is our human understanding that thinks because we see ourselves, we think that God is like a man that will have to come and start counting all the hairs on our head. But God is not like that. God used itself to experience all of existence just to have a personal experience of all of existence. So all the chaos you think is going on right now that God is so unaware of, God is aware of every single cry, every single pain, every single wrong, every single injustice There has never been a time that God is unaware of anything you are going through, or anyhow you react, or how you would rather react. But your free will is what God would always desire. That is why I have turned to somebody that if it is not what you would rather prefer, I am not interested. I want to see you at your best. What you would rather do is better for me than what you are trying to adjust into, what you are doing out of a condition or out of a, a situationship. Because at the end of the day, what you rather do is what comes easy to you. What you would rather do is your natural state. And it's not like I'm judging you that you don't grow from that state. People grow from what they rather do. We grow every day. Life is always increasing because love is everything positive. Life is always increasing because love is everything positive energy. And positivity carries a cross sign because it is always increasing. The additional of cross of positivity is endless, it is infinite. So existence always increase. It wasn't just the big bang that expanded, it is every millisecond that there is an increase in existence. So you cannot find the beginning on the ending because there was never a beginning. It is just all there is. That is why some people that channel spirit will tell you love is all there is. Love is the frequency of existence because they can see it. Once you can see spirit, you see the truth of spirit. And the truth of spirit will always be oneness, whether it makes sense to you at that point or it doesn't. But you see, that same truth of spirit keeps embedding a conscious awareness of the age of love within my chest. That no matter how I shake my head and say, this thing is nonsense, what am I saying? How can I see this when this is what the reality is saying? It doesn't change the fact that that knowing keeps shouting and screaming within me that the age of love is already possible. It has happened. We are just remembering the process because we cannot do anything but remember what already exists when we increase our consciousness of love we exist within. That is all we do. We increase our consciousness of love we exist within. So when I became aware of the fact that this understanding of love that I have that keeps flowing through me is not something that I can suppress. Because to be honest with you, I wrestled with it all through my childhood growing up. I didn't want to be anything but the regular kid, to blend in, to have friends like everybody else. And I tried my best to do that, but it didn't work out that way. And I've grown to that point where it doesn't matter to blend in because I see how stupid I was not caring to understand that this existence I actually have is not something that I created. I did not create myself. And so I cannot dictate to my consciousness how it should follow. I can only grow aware and observe it because the only job of us is to observe consciousness. Why? Because God created all of existence just to experience everything, and you are the watchman of its creation. So, just like the cat is keeping record of its own existence for source itself, because they said everything accounts on that day, everything keeps record of existence. The air we breathe keeps record of existence. You would be so surprised that even the water you drink is keeping record of what is going on within your body system. Everything is connected as one because there has never been any separation in spirit, and love is spirit. We are spirit existing within spirit. So the physical mind, the mind that is so numb to direct connection with source, would think there is nothing spirit about existence. But it is a big lie, because even existence, the Milky Way, the galaxy, all exist within spirit. And in that spirit, there is no escape. It is the same spirit that moves everything that we don't care to understand majority of the time, right? And it doesn't change the fact that we are still spirit existing within spirit, even when we care or we don't care to understand. Love would always be everything positive energy, and love would always increase, because positivity is an additional sign. It will always increase and increase and increase. But you see what fear does? Fear empties every increase of love. Is why no matter how it keeps adding, there is nothing that is there. That is the power of fear. It is a minor sign for a good reason. A negative sign, it doesn't feel good as an indicator to indicate that this is fear. It would never feel good, because when you see people getting shot, being killed, it never feels good. And the whole point of fear is to continue to never feel good. The aim and goal of fear is to never feel good. So wicked people would always be wicked, hurt people would always hurt people, right? Because it is to promote that never feeling good and spread it as much as it can. But love would always want positivity. That is why God is love. It always increase. It always wants you to feel good. This is why we do technology today, because we want to make life good. We want to increase the good of comfort and all that to feel good. Because now, imagine how technology made it easy that I'm far away in only God know what land space, and I can come online and you can see me as close as possible. I can feel close. You can feel my energy with a camera just seeing me. And so God is love isn't something that is words to experience. It is actually something that you have to feel. But you see, when practitioners that do spirit work are demanding pay, they are not wrong to demand pay, because there is no giving without receiving. They are not supposed to be paying, they are not supposed to be like serving for free, in the sense that you are supposed to know that you are supposed to honor their services, because you could have been the one doing the services. You can be directly connected to source, but you choose to use a medium. So that medium that you are using to connect to source needs to be rewarded. But it doesn't mean that they cannot be rewarded by love that is giving them that message. But they choose on their own free will to gain their reward in whatever manner they choose. It is their free will. That is why I do not go to meet any practitioner for reading. I don't say help me connect to source, because it doesn't even make sense to me. Every day I am connected to source without internet, without light, without anything. It is a constant direct communication, and it comes to me every single day, no matter how the condition of my day looks like, because I am breathing. It is a bet embedded nature to connect to source. It is not something I'm making an effort to do. I swear, if I had to make an effort to do it, I don't think I would be even interested in being possessed by source itself. Because it is a lot of experience. It takes you out of the mundane world into a more solitude state of experiencing life. And at first, the solitude wasn't something I embraced, because why would anyone want to be solid, like live in solitude? because love would always bring about togetherness, right? And that is why I come here, no matter how solidified I've been. Sorry if my words were not spoken out right? And I've learned that I didn't create myself. So I can't stop source from choosing to express the way it wants to express through me. So when I wrestled with it, that what is this? What is happening to me as a child? It wasn't easy. It wasn't something that I could explain to anyone around me because nobody was experiencing it. I could sit down and listen to every different perspective of life, how they perceive the world. And I saw the difference of how I perceived or what I was receiving and how my perception of love was not something that a human being could choose to create. And until I came to this actualization of just accepting and surrendering to it, that it now became something that I'm grateful for genuinely. Because it is how I can increase despite the mad intensity of how challenging Nigeria keeps getting. And and how I can increase still makes me wonder how magnificent God is. Because the magnitude of God is so mad that it busts my head every time that God, God. And the more you understand God, the more you're like, God, God. Because it takes God to give that understanding of God. You cannot say, God, give me that understanding. You can't demand God. If God is not flowing through you, you don't demand it. You have to make yourself that vessel that would flow God. And God is infinite intelligence. That intelligence that is endless, limitless, infinite. That is God. And God is love. So love is infinite intelligence. And so every intelligence that you seek is within you. But to do the work that would make you that channel, that vessel that can carry that pure infinity is mostly why people would rather pay, right? They would rather pay a pastor, a sh- shaman, or a monk, or whatever it is, just to get that connection that they do not want to put in the work by themselves to create, because you can have that connection. That is all what Jesus Christ came to exist to tell us, that love is the only way to God, but we turned it to Jesus Christ is the only way to God, forgetting that Jesus Christ was only existing because of love, a living manifestation of love's mind in flesh. He has to be love in flesh to even exist. And without love, nothing else can ever be good. There is no good in existence. There is nothing that can feel good if it's not love. It takes love for goodness to exist. And so I'm not out here to invalidate people that pay, that seek to be paid. If they seek to be paid for their services, it is not a wrong thing. It doesn't make them less spiritual. It doesn't make them less collecting from source. It doesn't reduce their spirituality because they are choosing to be paid. It still expresses the fact that they have fear, they are still having a lot of work to do, but it doesn't stop them from collecting from source. Because it is not until I did not do any spiritual mountain or climbing as a child to start receiving from source. It was something that just happened to me. So that is why they are called gifts of the spirit. Gift of the spirit, you don't need to be a person that fasts every day to have gift of the spirit. If you have gift of the spirit, you have it. And some people want to be paid for their gift because they feel they did a lot to gain it. There are some gifts that can be acquired, and there are some gifts that are follow come by default that you do not have to do anything to gain. So people that work towards gaining gifts of spiritual gifts, right, and feel they should be paid for it, they are not wrong. So we should not judge them for being their authentic self and demanding for a pay. Because if they want to, there is nothing wrong about it. And if you want to pay for their service, there is nothing wrong about it because you can choose to connect directly to God, to love we exist within, and that is the actual need of existence. Existence wants itself to be directly connected to itself. That is why they said in the last days, the all, which is love, what we exist within, will draw all back to itself. It doesn't mean there will be an implosion and everything will collide into itself. It means that everything will become love, whether they like it or not, because you exist within it. You do not have a say to say I don't want God to, and you can, and as long as you exist. And the thing is that if you choose not to exist because you have a free will to choose not to exist. See, energy can never be created or destroyed, so you can choose to transform to the other side, to the formless. It is your free will. It is your free will to choose to accept something that cannot be stopped. Human evolution is something that nothing stops it. As long as you exist, there is nothing stopping it. And they said until you see the beauty of love before you are open to the opportunities and experiences that love has to offer. So I hope my few words was able to touch or clarify anything that doesn't sit well with you. And at the end of the day, it's just about not judging anybody because you didn't create anybody. You didn't create yourself. And just because love says togetherness does not mean that you're feeling good in that union is not important. So if you don't feel good about using paying for services, maybe it's because you are supposed to be connecting directly to source itself. So if it doesn't feel good to you to pay for a spiritual service, then it means your soul is preferring to connect directly and instead of listening to something outside itself, because I'm only seeking that we all follow the God within us. No matter how your level of relationship with that God within you is, it is the best solution to follow the God within you at all given times. So thank you very much for staying this long with me. I hope I was able to express clearly that paying for or not paying for it doesn't reduce spirituality, it does not reduce anything that is God, because God is everything. God used itself to better all that can exist. God is love.